Okay, another episode of Dads in Real Life. And just to kind of prelude an intro to this episode, Travis and I talk about pretty much a wide spectrum of topics as far as being a dad, parenting. We're 10 years apart, the highs, the lows. In this particular episode, we're talking about grief. So if you're in a season of life that you are going through grief and it's a lot right now, maybe this is one of those episodes that you kind of shelf for the time being. Now, if you're walking through it and listening to other people's stories as they walk through it, can help you in any way, then please carry on. It's going to be a little cut and sew episode. It's going to be tying two episodes of motorcycles and minivans together. So I'll do my best as far as the audio, and in the video, if you're watching it now, you'll definitely see a difference in scenes, but please enjoy. And again, as always, we're not experts. We're not gurus. We're just two dads in real life.
Now I have come to the point where we have three kids. We squished them into the RAV,
Hmm.
and then we were just doing life with our three kids, and we were happy with that. And
Hmm.
then all of a sudden, well, there's a fourth kid that's
What?
apparently showing up. What?
RAV4 is not going to
Crazy.
handle four across.
Oh man. So that hit both of us. Wow. That hit both of
Mhm.
us like a ton of bricks. But
And
we
that's
are,
that's when I
now a
mailed
month.
him his members only jacket to the minivan group. So it's like velour on the inside, semi-gloss on the outside.
Welcome everybody
Welcome, welcome.
to Dads in Real Life.
Exactly.
Episode Motorcycles and Minivans Part 2.
Part deux.
Part 2.
Hmm.
Yeah, guys, we have quite the episode in store for you. One that maybe you weren't anticipating, as much as I was not anticipating anything that happened in the last 3 weeks.
I know. I
So,
think exactly. I'll let you take lead on this. I'm
yeah,
gonna be an audience member for the most part. But if there's anything that I'm like, oh wow, how would you do that, or how are you doing this? Then I'll chime in.
please do.
Yes.
So, we left you with some exciting news
Mhm.
on the last episode. We are now recording this, this is like 3 weeks later or so.
Something like
The intention was to kick off part two a week after part one, which is
that. Mhm.
generally how we do things. And when I left us, we had just announced that I got this minivan outside because we were having our fourth kid.
Mhm.
Crazy. We couldn't believe it. That was a surprise. That was back in January. We released these things way later. So I'll give timelines now because you're going
Yeah.
to
If you
find
haven't
out, like,
figured that
oh, this
out,
is way later.
yeah.
Yeah. But nevertheless, that was in January when we found out. And we recorded the first episode in March.
Mhm.
And we found out at my wife's 14-week ultrasound that unfortunately we had lost the baby.
Mhm.
And so we have had healthy babies and pregnancies for the first three, no
Mhm.
problem. Turns out the statistic is that 1 in 4 does not make it. And
Mhm.
I had no idea that it was that like small of a number,
Almost like prevalent, right?
or
Like
like or big of a number. It's that,
yeah, it
right? Like,
happens more often than I think a lot of us dads know or
yeah,
realize.
yeah. And so today we're talking about minivans just a little bit, but mostly we're talking about grief because
Mhm.
uh, we're dads in real life,
This is
and
the
we just
season
riff
we're
off
in.
of what's happening,
Mhm.
and this is what's happening.
Mhm.
So, yeah, man. So first off, um, if we weren't riffing, maybe I would have created bullet points for the notes that I want to take. But I know we'll get there in the end, and that's not how we do the show.
No, we
So
usually circle back a bunch, but that's fine. But I
we'll
wanna kick it
do
off with
little spirals.
how are you doing? I mean,
Yeah,
I know that's broad, right? We can
yeah,
tack a number on it. 10's like fantastic, 0, 0, but
yeah.
it's less about the number, but it's like, hey, are you taking steps for yourself, for your family to heal, to grieve, right? Because I think a lot of dads, at least I can only talk from my own experience, whenever something from left field happens or you lose a loved one, we often have to kind of take the spear and be even more tip of the spear, right? We got to hold down the fort. We got to keep it together, right? Because it's okay for other ones to grieve or other people to take a time out. But I think a lot of times dads are like, well, I'm part of that group. Like I need a timeout. I need a dad day. I need to heal. I need to grieve. So are you getting some time for yourself? Are you, of course, making sure family, kids are good, but how are you doing?
Yeah, define okay, right?
Exactly.
It's crazy. We're overall we're doing good.
Good.
And we're taking the time to feel all of the feels,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? So, um I think it, it well, okay, so if you've been anywhere in my same in
Hmm.
our shoes, or if you've lost anybody, or if you've grieved anything really,
Hmm.
you find that grief comes in waves. And
Mm.
so, um the only reason I'm able to, like, make full sentences right now, I think, is because I've gone through many of the waves
Hmm.
already, and we've given the space to feel the feels. And so,
Hmm.
um, shed many tears, and I don't think that's necessarily done. Today was just been kind of like a pretty normal day, like in the
Hmm.
sense of just like, okay, I got to get some things done, and I've got to do all that, and I haven't been really sad
Hmm.
until I listened to part one, and we got to the end,
Gotcha.
and
Yeah.
it hit me again of just like, just a reminder of where I was at 3 weeks ago. So
Hmm.
this is cool because it's a social, or what do we call this? Like, this is like our video. This is a vlog, right?
Yeah,
Essentially,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like a
It's
log of,
documenting our podcast is literally documenting you and my our lives,
yeah,
right? And that's we always use the word seasons and stuff like that, and this is just one of those. And I think first, kudos to you being brave to talk about such a topic because I think a lot of first off, like I again speaking from my own experience, a lot of moms in my group don't really talk about it, but they do when it's brought up, right? Like if you have a
hmm,
confidant or if you have like that inner circle, it definitely is brought up. But it's not like talking over the barbecue or brought up at Thanksgiving or anything like that. And even more so with dads, I don't think loss or grief or struggles really talked about. And I've had a handful of father figures, dads in my groups, guys that I've known throughout the years who have dealt with loss as far as the grieving procedures vastly differently.
yeah,
Some detrimental to their own health, and others a sense of better, right? Like they are better. They're not great and they may not ever be great for a while, but the goal is not great, right? The goal is better. And I know they're implementing stuff where they're spending more time with one another as far as core family group. They're spending more time with themselves, right? I don't think dads spend enough downtime. We call it quiet time at home with
yeah,
themselves and their thoughts. And it's okay to grieve and have all these emotions because if not, they go somewhere, right?
yep,
And so it's one of those things like with your kids when they get like food poisoning, better out than in. I think this is one of those scenarios that for a lot of men, a lot of dads, it's better out with a core group of people that you trust than in, right?
yeah, yeah. And so you bring up, community aspect.
Hmm.
So that was, I think, what like wrecked me the most. Just
Hmm.
was the, like, load of support
Hmm.
that we got, through this, from you guys, from all the people in our community. It was just like, just nonstop. And I mean,
Hmm.
and part of that was because we were, like, we had just gotten to sharing with everybody that,
Hmm.
hey, we got this fourth kiddo coming. And so now you share it all, and then 2 weeks later, like, oh, now we need to share, like, that we lost the baby.
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
and I think maybe some people would be upset about that, or try and, I don't know, try to hide that for some sort of time.
Hmm.
But the first thing I wanted to do was just to tell everybody as
Mhm.
quickly as I could, to let them know that this happened, because I knew that our community would rally around us,
Yeah.
and you don't know what you need in that time either. You just everything stops, right?
Mhm.
And so for us, this baby was far enough along that it was like, it's not the percentage rate of it happening at that point is not like super high.
Mhm.
So we thought, like, kind of like, oh, like, it seems like it's going places. But this is where I'm going to start jumping around, because
Yeah.
I'll be talking about different things and it won't all coalesce, I guess, until the end. But basically, um from a miscarriage standpoint, um you all of a sudden have to make all of these decisions, and it really brings up, just, uh, I don't, how do I want to put this? I don't want to make anybody feel, bad about any way that they've processed how they've processed this, if they've gone through it, right? Like, this
Yeah,
is
and yeah, this is your
solely my
story, your
experience,
experience.
right?
Exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
100%. You're not
And
saying everyone does it this way, and if you
yep,
don't do it this way, it's any different, right?
yep,
So
yep. So, I mean, just, you know, I think this just more solidified, where we stand with our beliefs and everything.
mhm,
Like,
mhm,
for us, it was like, like, this is a baby that we lost.
mhm,
Like, I think for some people out there, it's just like, up, you know you didn't have the baby yet, so it's like, whatever. I mean, not whatever, but it's not so much of a big thing because it's not a human yet.
yeah,
So that's where you start having this discussion. You have to start processing, like, what was it,
mhm,
and so for us, it was like, this if you look at a baby, that our baby didn't, or stopped growing at like 11 and a half weeks, and it's got all the little fingers and
mhm,
toes and beating heart, and
mhm,
so, um yeah, like, it's a real thing. So
mhm,
we were just processing that, and you have to start deciding things that are really, uh, it's
they're
hitting it
hard.
again,
Yeah, they're
yeah,
hard. They're hard
hard,
decisions.
yeah, hard things. And so, um gotta collect myself.
Yeah, take as much time as you want.
um let's see. So, yeah, you have to make a lot of hard decisions. And
Mhm.
so, for Deb specifically, that's where it's like, oh, you
Yeah.
know that's where she's got to decide, like,
Yeah, it's already rough, and now we're, like, compounding that by, like, 100x, right? So it's like it's not only the grief of losing the baby, but now all these kind of post-term questions that you need to address. And in someone, and I can only imagine in that state, it's like, hey, I just need a second. Like the first, news was hard enough. Now we got to do all this because the time's ticking, right? Deb's health is of concern, and so the doctors are worried about that. And so it's one of those things where you come to terms really quickly with really hard decisions that you didn't think you were going to need to ever make, and you need to do that within a short timeline, right? And so the pressure on you as a dad, the pressure on Deb as a wife, and then the surrounding group, right? Kids, family, all that pressure goes into that. And I could only imagine all you need is like, I just need to take a breath. Like, give us like 5 minutes just to take a breath. We'll come back to you on this. We'll come back to it. But yeah, you guys over the last 3 weeks, not only as like your grieving story and your healing story, but life decisions, man. This is not like where to go to college or what we eat on Friday night. These are like some major, major difficult questions. And I just thank God that you and Deb have worked so much on your relationship that these conversations are front of mind. Like you guys can have this talk versus I've had men in my life that literally go MIA in a situation like this, right? Just because it's like, hey,
yeah,
it's too much for me. I've never dealt with these thoughts or these like what are these emotions? I've never dealt with my emotions before, and so I'm just going to check out, or vice versa. They check out so hard that now it's compounded on the wife, right? Now it's like now I have to make all the decisions. Like this was a we thing, and now it's just a me thing. And so, I'm really proud of you guys, how hard you guys have worked over the years in your relationship. That, yes, it is unfortunate. Yeah, most people will not talk about this, and to be brave enough for you and Deb to share what you're going through with the community, within your small community, and even in a space like this. And I think this is going to be one of those nuggets that you may it's part of your grieving and healing story, but man, how many hundreds, thousands of dads out there will have the opportunity to listen to this in the future and be like, Travis is exactly where I'm at. Like, I'm not alone on this. This is not the first time this has ever happened, although no one ever talks about it. Right.
Yeah. 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 And so that's why I wanted to dive into it, because I
Mhm.
I think of myself, I'm kind of like a closet weeper. Like I watch some movies and it's like, all the tear jerking moments. I'm like,
Dude, I'm the
I'm
same
not
way.
gonna
I'm like
die.
coughing out of it. I'm not gonna cry this
I
time.
wanna,
Right.
yeah, yeah. I'm just like, don't show it. Like,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
uh,
Yeah.
I'm feeling it. So, yeah, and it's funny because it's like, it's okay to do that. It's
Yeah.
okay to feel the feels. It's okay to cry. It's okay to do all those things, and still you fight it. But
Yeah.
again, coming from a space where we are good, but we are allowing ourselves to feel
Mhm.
the feels. And so, yeah, I guess there's some weight to talking about it, not because I'm nervous about it, but there's just like, wow, okay, now somebody else could be dealing with that. And
Mhm.
I feel for them in that regard, because I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm sorry that you are in the same place as me. And
Mhm.
so here it goes. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, okay. There are a couple things that you have to figure out when you get to that point. And so they give you options. They say
Mhm.
you can take some medication and that will speed it up, and boom, you're going to have to like labor it at home. You can wait till your
Mhm.
body realizes that that's going to happen, and then you labor
Mhm.
at home. Or you can do the surgery,
Mhm.
and they can take care of everything in the hospital. And so there's no right answer there.
Mhm.
It all depends on what you feel like you as a family want
Mhm.
to do. And there are pros and cons to both that are really difficult, because well, as a woman, she's trying to decide, like, she has to make a decision now about, like, she has to get, like, she is choosing to, like, deal with this baby. Like,
Mhm.
not only is it like she was carrying life and now she's carrying death, but she also has to make that call.
Mhm.
And so that is super hard.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And so you then, like, so then we talked about it, and there were a lot of thoughts there, because part of you wants to have some closure. Like, I kind of wanted to see the
Mhm.
baby and say goodbye. At the same time, it was like, oh, you like, I know some people now, so like we've heard a lot of stories since
Mhm.
then, but like, you to do that by yourself at home,
Yeah.
then all the questions of like, what do I do
Mhm.
now? And so they tell you, they're like, you can bury it, or you can do this or that. And so there's like, oh, there's that. So it's like, yeah, I kind of want to do that. But then at the same time, like, I also don't want Deb to have to go through that trauma. Like,
Yeah. The
and then it's
whole
also like
process.
in your house,
Yeah. The
that's
whole
another hard
process.
thing.
Mhm.
So then we ended up deciding to do the surgery.
Mhm.
And so, um, hindsight, we're so glad that we did that,
Mhm.
because it was, she she lost a ton of blood. And so it was really, the doctor was like, hey, really, like, it's so good that she was here for this, because
Mhm.
she's doing good, she's doing okay now, but
Yeah.
she lost a lot of blood. And so otherwise you would probably would have had to call
I
911,
was gonna say, due to the
be
complications,
rushed.
it was the best case scenario,
Yeah.
for that to be done at the hospital. Yeah.
So so I felt really good about that. But the yeah, it didn't make it any easier. And so then
No.
you also don't have that closure in the sense of like I still feel like like for myself, I still feel like I got closure
Mhm.
because that's a very real thing. Like we went to the office and then she
Mhm.
gets rolled away and then she comes back and it's like, okay,
Mhm.
that's done.
Mhm.
So all in all, like we feel good about the decision that we made, but that doesn't make it any easier.
No.
So
No.
yeah, so then there's the whole so we were just surrounded by support. So that was something that really that's what killed me every time is I would see people that I knew who knew
Yeah.
and just like
Yeah.
um so it comes in waves.
Mhm.
So some days you're like, okay, like you
I'm doing
start
good.
off and you're like, I'm doing
I'm doing
great,
good.
and
I'm doing
then
great.
you do a podcast, and then you're like, oh
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
I didn't
But
think like I thought this was gonna be perfectly fine. Like
yeah.
it was
But
not
you
gonna
know
be
what?
a hard thing.
Like, I'm really proud of you, as not only as like a dad, but as a man, because like you said, culturally we're raised to kind of let me just push that down under and we'll deal with that never, right? Like we'll deal with it never. And over the years of working with therapists and doing personal development, one of the biggest changes for me was not to, but actually to lean into it, right? Not to avoid it, like that makes me less of a dad, less of a man, but to know that a strength of mine will actually be going through this and processing this, right? Emotionally processing this. And for me, going through hard times in my life, through loss and dealing with my emotions, stuff like that, it's made me a better dad and partner because my ability to empathize is stronger. Right? Growing
Yes.
up,
Oh
it
yes.
was not a very strong muscle of mine. I'm like, why are you crying? Like, like my dad, like, why are you crying? What's wrong? And it was
Yeah.
always that kind of
Yeah.
tough love. Whereas that was the archetype that I kind of grew up with. But then after, doing work and going through life and like you said, the waves, man, you become an expert surfer until you realize that you'll never become an expert surfer, right? You
Because
just
that
kind of
wave's coming in hot, and you don't have
exactly,
any
and
control over
all you can
that.
do is hold on. But one of the things, like, I don't know if a therapist or Ted Lasso taught me this. I think Ted Lasso taught me this.
Probably Ted Lasso. Yeah.
Probably Ted Lasso. I did like the quote of like, you know, there's nothing worse than going through grief and loss alone, right? To know
Mm.
that you're going through with a community that's there to support you. They're going through it with you. Maybe not the version you're going through, but they're going through it with you. And I think that there's some support there, right? Knowing that you're not alone in this. And I think that would be worse off if you guys were like literally cabin middle of nowhere and had to go through this alone. I think that would be a different storyline, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's part of the healing process is doing that with others. I
Mhm.
think we were made to do
Yes.
life with others, and so I mean that would be one of my takeaways. One of the challenges that I would give is like if you're in a season of grief, I, invite people into that with you.
Mm.
And the other thing is a lot of people might not know how to empathize exactly. Like you said,
Mhm.
you like all of a sudden now you have this ability to empathize. Not that you wanted it, but you have it now. And you
Yes.
have a depth of understanding that a lot of people don't have. But
Yes.
you um like they can still they're gonna do the best that they can.
Mhm.
That was the thing was I went to church that like the like it was the Sunday before the surgery.
Mhm.
And I was like, I'm fine now. Like we cried a lot like when we found out and we've gone
Mhm.
through like a couple. So I'm fine, right? And we are gonna go together. And I was like, cool. Our daughter gets lice. So Deb stays home.
Oh, no way.
And we are like, oh man. So I'm like, okay, I'm still gonna go. I'll take the other two kids and I drop
Yeah.
the kids off and I'm heading in and I'm like, this is great. It's great to be back. Like we've been in our bubble. Well,
Yeah.
and if that bubble was what all but like 4.5 days, right?
I was gonna say,
So
yeah,
so
it was
that's
a couple days.
and that's a whole nother topic is like
Yeah.
how like on grief that we can get into later. But so I was like, I'm fine. And then one of my uh mentors kind of
Mhm.
like saw me, and like everybody knows at this
Yeah,
point,
yeah.
right? And they gave me this look, and it's like this look of understanding, right? But it's like,
Mhm.
oh, and so it hit. I was like, whoa. And then I went inside and I saw another friend, and they gave me a big old hug,
The
and I was like,
yeah, same look,
oh,
and then you're like, "Oh."
oh man, this is gonna be hard. And then somebody else came, and I was like, I gotta go outside. So I jumped out, I grabbed some more coffee, and I was like,
Yep.
just like hold it together. I was like drinking the coffee, like just like not letting the cup leave my mouth.
Taking the lowest sip, the slowest sips ever. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, this was my experience of like trying you just like keep it in. And we have this like outside little space, like with
Mhm.
like the TV on with it
Mhm,
going.
mhm,
So I was like, okay. So I went over there and I was like, I gotta sit outside.
mhm.
And then I felt one of my buddies who's one of the pastors there, like hands on my shoulders, and I
Mm.
lost it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Lost it. Like
yeah,
just weeping.
yeah.
Um, like covered my face with my hat. I was just like, and that's exactly, that was another thing. Like I needed that. I needed
Yeah.
that. That was like, and maybe you need a few of those,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like, well, how many is it gonna take? It might take a while, and that's okay. And so and then my other friend came out, and he saw me, and we talked about it later.
Mhm.
He had no idea what to do, but he sat next to me, and he's like, do you want some tissues? And I was like, yeah, I'll take them. So he
You have
went
a
and like
bath
got me.
towel? I don't need tissues. Do you have a bath towel?
Yeah,
I need.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so he just sat there, and
That's awesome.
that was again like presence is a present. Like
Yeah.
I that was support, and
I love that. Presence
he
is a
felt like
present.
an idiot because he was like,
Mhm.
I don't know what to do, and he's crying, and it's not normal that
But
you're
you know
just
what? Your friend was willing to get out of their own uncomfortable way to be there
yeah,
for a friend, right? And again, that's that sense of community, knowing that you've built such a safe space within your community that you can grieve,
yep,
right? With them versus grieving alone. So even though he might have felt awkward, like, do I get you a Subway or do I just sit here, right? The
yeah.
fact that they're trying, like you said, presence is a present. And that's so true. That's so true.
Yeah, so that was huge. That was helpful for me, even just yeah. It was just like I know, like I'm not even I'm and I couldn't form sentences at that
Mhm,
point, right? And many a times I haven't been able to. But it's almost like I want to tell them, but like everybody knows. Like it's
mhm,
not there's nothing that you have to say. But I
mm.
just kept wanting to tell people like I'm not crying because I'm sad. I'm
If you
crying
feel
because
like you have
like
to
it means
explain
so
yourself.
much.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like I just want you to know that this is awesome,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like losing it. So so that has meant the world, and then we're surrounded by just so many amazing people. Like people are just sending us gift cards and toys for the kids. You guys
Mm,
send us a box, and they're like playing with that. We're just like, spending some time together. And it was just, it's a force, like, okay, this happens whether it might be like maybe you have a child, or maybe
mhm,
you're going through grief, but take that time to be also, like we were in community, but at the same time we were taking time to be together as a family, and like
mhm,
and as a couple. And
mhm,
so we talk about like our little bubble moments that
mhm.
we've had throughout the years, and those are very special in and of themselves. And either
Yes.
maybe you grow together in that, or
Oh,
maybe
you definitely
you
do.
come back together in
Mhm,
that, right? You like we're in a season of like two ships in the night a lot of times, and it's
mhm,
like just getting the kids places and putting them down at naps, and working hard because childcare costs a lot, so we're not doing
mhm,
that, but we're like, so it's just a lot of that. But to have that is a gift in and of itself. And like as Americans, especially in our culture, it's like
mhm.
get back to it. I think a lot of
It's
people like
easy to
just
go
go,
back
let's
to
just
being
go.
busy,
Yeah, just
right?
get busy.
Just be busy again, and not only, culturally, but I think for a lot of again, a lot of me when I was younger dealing with loss or anything, I would just be busy because I used it as a distraction because I
Yes.
didn't wanna think about it. I didn't wanna sit in the emotions because I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know if this was a good thing. I didn't know if it was a bad thing, but what I did know is if I'm busy, I won't have to deal with it.
Yep.
Right? until it obviously sneaks up later on in life. And then you're like, crap, maybe I should have dealt with this a while ago. Right. So the fact that you guys have such that bubble, and we do too. Right. And it is, I love how you put two sides of the coin. It's an opportunity to grow as a family, as in like that immediate family, but it's also a time to come back to that immediate family. Sometimes we get caught up with exterior things, job, community, even church sometimes, where we forget like you know, there's feet underneath us that we
Yeah.
can shepherd and take care of and come back to. So
Yeah. Yeah. So that has been great. And like you have those moments, like I balance that, right? You can
mhm,
also, I've had those moments where I go, Deb, she had a bunch of friends over one
mhm,
night and they all like just cried together.
mhm,
And I was like, at that point, I was like, I've had a lot of tears. I just want to go for a drive. Like that
mhm.
was when so back to the motorcycles. Boy, was I craving like a
A
motorcycle
ride.
ride. That would have
Yeah,
been the ultimate therapy, to have the wind in your face, to smell the exhaust and to
man,
like give it some
if I lived
throttle.
any closer, I would have come picked you up, gone to the Harley Davidson dealership, and be like, "We need to test ride a bike. We'll be back in an hour and a half."
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah. So I took the truck instead, and that sufficed. That was fine,
Yeah,
like, but
windows
like
down. Yep.
you have those moments too to yourself, right? And
Mhm.
so we've balanced that quite well also.
That's amazing. That's good.
And so I think there's still a lot to learn, and like
Mhm,
I kind of want to dive into like a book or two that I've been given from people, just to kind of like, understand, like, yeah, what are some other healthy ways to process
mhm,
that grief, and to, yeah, let it be there, because the what I was saying was, yeah, as Americans, we want to get distracted, we want to get busy.
mhm.
um and another sneaky, this is a family show,
Yeah. Yes, it is.
sneaky
At
son of
least
a gun,
at
a
least I
sneaky.
have to click that on the YouTube thing. They're like, "Is this for kids?" I'm like, "It can be, I
It's for
guess.
your kids,
It's
for
for
you,
your
for your
kids'
kids.
parents."
um yeah, it's a nasty son of a gun.
Yeah.
The is the
What
phone, the social media.
Oh my
Like,
goodness. Yes.
you don't have to get to work. You can just open your phone and immediately cut yourself off from the emotions.
Mhm.
And I'm saying this because, like, I mean, even like, I just noticed it. I
Mhm.
think, again, this is something my wife's really good at, but she was like, "Hey, I got rid of all my social media. I cut it out."
Yes.
Like, because and because you don't even, you might not even think about it. It's not even malicious. You're not even saying to yourself like, "Oh, I got to get at it. I got to get away." You
Mhm.
just open up your phone because that's what you do, and then you're lost in another reel,
Yeah.
another reel, another reel, and you've disconnected yourself from that process.
Mhm.
So that's another pointer I would say, and I say that confidently. I'm not gonna say there. Well, you could do it different ways.
No, I
No, like, social
agree
media is,
agree
get rid of that, for that, like during that season especially.
Yeah.
I probably need to get rid of it just in general. The ironic thing is, some people are like watching this on social media, right? Or they're
Exactly,
like,
right? Full
ah, dang
circle.
it. Can't live with it, can't live without it. But you know what I mean in that
Yeah.
regard.
Yeah.
So, um,
They
yeah,
can also
yeah,
actually real quick to speak on that, a little bit of a tangent, but it could also be a trigger, right? So you might be in your grieving and healing season of life, and then just because you clicked on something or a keyword comes up, it could definitely be a negative trigger to bring you back into a space that you may not want to be. Maybe you're watching a story of someone else who has loss, or maybe it could be the keeping up with the Joneses, like, but they're doing so much better than them. Why aren't they grieving? You know what I mean? So I know a lot of times when we are going through seasons of struggle, we cut off social media for our own mental health, right? We just cut out social media.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like there are more reasons to cut off social media these days than there are to have it.
I think there's very few reasons to
Very
have it,
few.
but yeah,
But
that
yeah,
was a good one.
yeah. So that's another
That's
more
another
on another episode.
episode.
Also, yeah, we have plenty of content
Oh my
to come.
goodness, yeah.
Um, Yeah. So there's a quote you mentioned this earlier, and you
Mhm,
said, it gives you this, like the hard things give you the potential of empathizing in a much
mhm,
deeper way. And my cousin sent me this quote from the Count of Monte Cristo,
mm,
uh, the book. There's this quote that I really appreciated, and it was kind of neat to think about. But it said, "There is neither happiness nor misery in the world. There is only the comparison of one state with another, nothing
mm,
more. He who has felt the deepest grief is best able to experience supreme happiness. We must have felt what it is to die, that we may appreciate the enjoyments of living."
mhm,
And so the again, you don't ask for it, but the deepest grief that you can feel also helps you experience the greatest joy in certain things, right? You don't It's
mhm,
like anything, you don't realize you what you had until you lost it. Like,
mhm.
I try and tell new parents, like, oh, get all the naps in you can before that baby comes, but you'll never ever be able to appreciate that until you've lost all your sleep, and
Exactly,
then it will mean something. So there
exactly.
really is no that's a side note, but also goes to new dads out there, or potential new dads. Like,
Mhm,
there's no use, like, crying over that, or like that you lost it, because you now have lost it, and you can
mhm.
appreciate it when it's there.
Yeah.
So um yeah. So I liked that quote.
No, it's great. I mean, it talks to so much of life, right? That going through hard times, if you really once you're through it, right? Once you're through the eye of the storm and you look back, you realize through that hard time how much closer it brought you to your immediate family, to your closest friends, is because you weren't walking through that storm alone, right? And
Yep.
so then you hug your kids a little bit longer, right? Then you don't get as frustrated when they want to do 2 more minutes at the park, right? And so it gives you an appreciation of what you got, because loss is all around us. It's just that we're not focused on it, right? We're not hyper focused and aware on it, but loss is always there. And so during these seasons, when we come through it, it's so important to realize that it does make you stronger. It makes your family bond stronger, it makes your relationship stronger. And I think one of the things is we're going to experience loss again, right? It's
Mm,
just human nature.
yeah.
And the loss we go through now, although some might say prepares you, I don't think it's the loss. I think it's how we walk through the loss together that prepares us for the next one,
Mm,
right? And so that's the
hmm.
only thing is, and not that I'm looking forward to it, not that I'm putting it on the calendar, but instead I'm spending the time with my family now, kind of banking for it, right? So I'm investing for it now, right? And so yeah, it's something that you never want to be prepared for, but now you have experience for, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We have experience for, and we own a minivan.
Welcome to the
So
club, Travis, by the way. I'll get you some nice spoilers, maybe a little
yeah.
lowering kit. I did see a lowered van this week, which I thought was, interesting.
I didn't know they could go any lower, you know?
Yeah.
That's
Hey,
I have to
it
take the speed bumps at a 3 mile per
3
hour
mile at an
rate.
angle, it looked like it ate a Civic. Like, that's what it looked like. It ate a Civic and the whole thing just lowered. I was like, "Okay, awesome."
Yeah, speaking of which, I talked about we had been in I still have another note on miscarriages that I wanted to
Yes.
mention, but first off, just to sidetrack for a sec.
Mhm,
It had been 3 or 4 weeks when we did the first episode, and now
mhm.
it's been like 8, 9 weeks or
Something like
something,
that.
8 weeks maybe, um, that we've had the van. And again, I've been working on that anti-discrimination against
Yeah, I
vans
remember.
thing.
Yep,
And
yep. Happy thoughts
like,
around vans. Yes.
I'm very appreciative now. There are many things that I'm very
There you go.
grateful for
There
about
you
it.
go.
Am I going to be, selling t-shirts
I was
with
just gonna say, you
that's
aren't selling T-shirts yet, or having the bumper sticker on your other car saying "My other car's a minivan."
Yeah,
Right.
no, I'm not going to do that. I think we have plenty of guys out there selling that now.
Yep.
And I'm like, I'm going to balance the pendulum a little bit,
I appreciate that.
like when the
Appreciate
season is done and we can get rid of the minivan, we'll get a much cooler car again. But
Yeah.
for right now, it's a tool that I need. Therefore, I'm going to keep the tool. Eventually,
Yeah.
I won't need that tool anymore and we can get
What
rid of it.
Travis doesn't know is when the season's over, he's just gonna buy a newer minivan. Like that's
Let's
basically
see.
it. It's
Let's
like,
see
wow,
if
the
you're right.
utility of this thing's better than my truck.
Let us see what we find out. We'll be doing this, years down the road, and
Exactly.
we'll go back.
Remember
So,
that episode where you guys bought a minivan? Oh yeah, I still have that same minivan. That's what.
oh yeah.
Yeah, but I put some Ford.
Anywho, so yeah, um, man. Okay, I don't. What was the other thing I was gonna
There
mention?
was one more thought you had
Yeah, I
about this
well,
season that
well.
you wanted
Okay,
to
so
share.
there were a few more. Well,
I'm
there were
sure there's a
little
lot of
things,
thoughts
right?
that
Yeah,
you have.
there's a lot
Yeah,
of thoughts. There's a lot
yeah,
of thoughts, and they continue to come, and there will be more later, and
yeah. I
we'll
was gonna
we'll
say
dive
there's
into
not
them.
enough time in one
But
single episode.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. There, I found it interesting that something I think that was also hard. Again, this is just like these are some like random notes,
Hmm.
but like it was interesting too for us, and I think I just this helps for some people. It helps them if they are not like they don't want to lose a baby and they lost a baby. Um, when we went through all the paperwork, the odd thing to me was like every like through the surgery and through the um like Deb ended up having to take an ambulance across the street basically to the ER
Yeah,
because they
all the
might have had to
medical
give her a
forms that you have to
transfusion and all
fill
this
out.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the medical forms kept saying it was a missed abortion. And I
Mm.
didn't like that the way that was worded because it was
Yeah.
like, oh, we just made this choice like to get rid of this baby. And we eventually like you know it was a great team of people. I felt really good. At first I was a little bit worried in the sense of just like who's doing this
Mhm.
surgery, and it was her OB.
Oh,
so
you already
so
have a relationship with her. Yeah.
there's a relationship there, yeah, and that made me feel so much better, like
Mhm.
because also like they're working with delivering babies all the time, and it wasn't just like you're going somewhere to just it's just another thing.
Yep.
Like
Like,
she brought so much care into that conversation that we had, and she
yeah.
answered all of our questions, um that I felt so comfortable like
Mhm.
leaving Deb with that. But then she had to get in the ambulance, and again they were like going over all the forms, just like, okay, sign here, like, oh, and they were talking to each other
Mhm.
like it was a missed abortion, blah blah. And my wife eventually like cut them off and was like,
Yeah, like,
"This
hey.
was a miscarriage. I
Yeah.
just want you to know." And and immediately their demeanor changed. And um, one of the guys in the ambulance was like, "I'm sorry. Like we've been where you are." And he shared a little bit of his story while they were waiting,
Mhm.
And so um, I just I I I wish the medical world would like at least like have those as options. You'd think now that they would have those options. Like there's a very clear difference
With how
between
frequent it happens too, right? Like, you would think
yeah.
it would be an option to put on there. Yeah.
So that was kind of like that was something that I just we weren't quite ready for. It was like why does this why did we keep running into this? And so that was kind of hard, but like it also brought up some good conversation too,
Mhm. Mhm.
in that. So that was something that we experienced that you don't have to think about unless this kind of thing happens, right?
Mhm.
And so again, I don't pretend to know where anybody else is at as they're processing, having kids and whatnot, right? So I don't want to like I don't want to dive more into it than that, but just like of like that was tough on our end.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Um,
I'm just thankful that you're in a space right now where you could share your insight on your experience. And I
yeah,
think that's the one thing I want people to take away from this is, and the funny thing, we joke and we riff and we talk about, we're not experts, we're not gurus, we're just two dads in real life. But I think there's some weight to that, right? That we also go through struggles. And it's something we've talked about on recording, off recording, about being that person in front of our kids, in front of our spouse, and that I still, suffer. I'm still working through stuff. I'm a human being, right? I'm not like a superman as much as we may want to be. And so today's stories and today's insight is one man, one dad's experience, and I'm hoping it opens up more conversations for other dads with their dad friends. And just like you said, your experience, although in the ambulance was like, that's kind of odd, it opened up the conversation with other people who you wouldn't have thought to ask the nurse, the paramedic, that they've gone through it, and then having someone else at the hospital, a nurse, gone through it, right? And so you realize that, man, we really are, even though we're in our own lane on our own ship, like this is a big boat. We all suffer. We're all going through hard times that we may not promote or talk about. And how, I don't want to say freeing, because I don't think it's freeing, but there is a sense of almost taking a little bit off the top, knowing that, okay, this is not the first time in life this has ever happened, right? That we can share our story, and hopefully it resonates with someone else who may unfortunately be going through a similar season. But hopefully for them, it's like what you guys got through talking to other people who've been through it, right? So we're hoping this does the same for them, knowing that, okay, again, it's hard to do it solo. So invite people into your story, invite people into your grief, and invite people into your healing. Because like you said, I'm a true believer in the fact that we're not supposed to be going through this alone, right? We're not supposed to be walking through this life alone. And so, yeah, kudos to you today. I mean, I'm not a betting man, Travis. But if I had to bet, this was probably be one of the hardest conversations we have on this podcast, especially after the number two conversation we had a couple months ago. So it
Yeah.
really skews.
Yeah.
so, but yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for sharing. I'm glad you guys are still in the waves, but you're choosing to ride the waves, right? It's very easy to just be MIA and choose not to ride the waves anymore.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, man.
Yeah, we'll just keep surfing and utilizing them for a chance to connect with
Hmm.
others, like you said, that brings a lot of um it's like serving someone else, right? That brings
Yes.
like actually some like dopamine in that regard of like it not yeah, you're not it's not a happy moment, but it provides this connection that you can only get through that that bond
Hmm.
and through Deb's nurse was like real business when obviously when I came in because Deb was white as a sheet and she was like,
We got to
like, hey,
take
we
care
got
of
to
you.
make sure she's okay. But by the time she left, the nurse was crying and Deb was like, it's okay. And she's like, you're comforting your nurse. Why are you like? And it was like that was a powerful moment,
Yeah.
like just like it really felt like a we're all in this together kind of thing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and we know like this is always that this baby will always be our
Hmm.
fourth kid, and like we'll see that baby down the
Hmm.
line, but right now it's that was the final thing that I remembered. I was like there was something else that was very profound that I wanted to share,
There you
and
go.
we're at the end here,
Yeah.
but I would be remiss if I didn't mention the I got so many nuggets from friends, like
Hmm.
of just yeah, love, care, support, right? So many, and I'm really encouraged. But I was like, man, I got some like good dudes, like dads around
Yeah.
me, because so many of them were just like, if you need anything, let me know, or like they just everybody got us meals and
Hmm.
all this stuff. But one of my close buddies, he like I kind of grew up with him, and he um, they had a stillborn,
Hmm.
and I was just thinking about him a lot and thinking about how hard it was for us now, and I it's just like I kept thinking like this is unimaginable. Like
Hmm.
I can't place myself in that level of grief to go through that, and I reached out to him because I was like, hey, I wanted to just let you know what's going on, but also I don't know if you have any pointers like
Mhm.
how to, and he was just like, there's no one right answer. You guys are gonna do, like, he gave me so many different things, like, you guys are gonna make those choices, but also, like, I'm here for you and all these things. And
Mm.
I was like, but it's not, like, I tried to downplay it.
Mhm.
I was like, this isn't the same, as what you guys had to endure. And was like, he responded right away and was like, hey, like, number one, don't say that,
Yeah, it's not
because
a comparison game. Yeah.
yeah, but he's also said the first, like, the moment you hear that heartbeat, like,
Mhm.
you're a dad.
Yeah.
And you guys, if you haven't been there, you'll get there and you'll know what I mean. But if you have been there and you hear that heartbeat for the first time, that is a
It's
crazy,
different.
crazy
It's
moment.
different. Yeah, there's a time before that, and then there's a time after that, right?
Yep. Yep. And so that one hit me like a ton of bricks, and I really appreciate him for that. Of course, like, yeah, he really just, he went through, that is still, it's a level of grief I can't even imagine, but he just was there for me in that, and I was
Mhm.
so grateful for it. But that also, just that note of, like, don't downplay. I needed that, and anybody else who's gone through that too, like, for
Mhm.
a miscarriage, like, don't downplay your grief, no matter where you were in that
Mhm.
spectrum, like the growth spectrum of, like,
Mhm.
pregnancy. Um, let, like, feel the feels and let yourself grieve, because it's not any less because it was here or there. Um,
Exactly.
so that's what I got for this episode, as
That
we
that that
dove
was
into
huge,
the
man.
details.
That
You
was
know?
that was huge, man. And I
Yeah.
think like what you said, and something that I heard through like working with therapists over the years and stuff like that is because when I used to go through certain traumas and stuff, I'd be like, well, it's not like PTSD or something like that. Like it's not like, man, that person's missing a hand. Like that's trauma.
Yeah.
And what I learned was like trauma is not like layers, right? It's not like, oh, you either have it or you don't. It's degrees. And so just because your trauma doesn't look like someone else's doesn't mean their trauma is harder or easier than yours trauma is, right? So to understand what you're walking through and someone else is walking through might be similar in terminology, but how you're reacting to it, right? Your upbringing, your whole storyline is very different. So it's still traumatic. That's why they call it trauma. And so working through that, right, with the community, with your loved ones, with Deb and the family, is a powerful thing. And I think a lot of times, like you said, just because of our culture, we get into this comparison game. So you're like, but yeah, but this person had it a lot worse. It's like, no, there's no worse. It's all trauma, right? We're all healing. So
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Man, I'm sitting here, and this was like a horrible spot to sit, because my shop got all messed up because we had a storm and I had to bring a bunch of stuff in there. So I'm sitting
mhm.
inside. But I sat next to the computer so I could look at my notes for that quote. And it's just showing us pictures of our family and of the kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, I am grateful to be a dad.
Yes.
And it is a gift, and it's not necessarily guaranteed. I think it's also easy these days to think, like,
Yes.
oh yeah, if I want it, I'll make it happen. But that's not for everybody. Like, that
No.
doesn't happen for everybody.
No,
So
it doesn't.
I'm just sitting here, and we end this with, like, I'm really grateful, and and just excited for what's next, despite also not being okay, and that's okay, right? Being
Yes.
sad and, like, sitting in that and doing that together in community, not being an island,
Yeah.
all part of the process.
Yes. 100%.
So
So with
we
that,
are not professionals.
no, we are not gurus.
We are just
It's
two dads
nerds,
in real life.
real life.